Okay, hello and welcome to today's event, everyone. I'm Jason Gumper from msdynamicsworld.com, and I am joined by John Michaels and Mary Miller of ImageTag for a session on transforming your business. As we get started, please know that you can add your feedback and ask questions using the Q&A block or the chat that you'll see on the right side of the webcast session today. John and Mary will be making time for questions at the end, so please enter them at any point. And without further delay, I'm going to hand things off to John Michaels to start.
Hi, everyone. My name is John Michaels, and I'm the VP of Worldwide Sales and Marketing here at ImageTag out of Tempe, Arizona. And I'm being joined today by the lovely and esteemed Mary Miller, our Director of Marketing. I've been with the company for more than 7 years, and during that time, we've completely evolved to a company with a deep passion for helping our customers achieve what we call operational excellence by automating their broken, inefficient business processes. And I realize, while that may sound like a lot of buzzwords, a mouthful of buzzwords, the truth is we really do get up in the morning with that passion to solve customers' business problems. Over a nearly 25-year business career, I've observed that there are a few things more stressful to my customers than being in charge of a business or in charge of a process or in charge of a business division that isn't performing as well as it could or should. And being held responsible and accountable for that business over which you have little control and no visibility is one of the most harrowing, miserable experiences you can possibly imagine, at least from a career perspective. And let's face it, you hate to lose and you love to win. And so the feeling that our customers get when they decide to get their operational problems handled once and for all is one of complete relief. That's kind of what we're known for. And the feeling that they get when we start automating and fixing broken business processes is one of pure elation. And ultimately, despite all the incredible ROI stories that I could share with you about, the hundreds and hundreds of customers that we've worked with in the past, that's what really drives our customers to buy from us. It's that feeling of relief and elation when they regain control and visibility over their business, or at least their part of the business. So that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. And what I'd like to do is start off by taking a quick look at my company, ImageTag, and we'll start the story from there. So our product, QuickTag, that's our flagship product, has been an absolute labor of love for the last almost 20 years. We are a mid-sized software company near the Arizona State campus. We've accomplished just a few things in the past couple of decades. Let me kind of take you through chronologically how we saw the problem that we're sort of here to solve. So first, we saw the core problem that we wanted to solve is what I refer to as the paper burden. And you've all seen pictures of a flabbergasted office worker slumped over their office desk in defeat as mountains of paper piled up and surrounded them. And maybe that office worker was even you. So in the beginning, we invented this patented way to capture paper documents that completely changed the document imaging industry. Back in 2004, we then discovered that it was often that companies found their paper burden related more to their back office processes and ERP systems. So at that point in 2004, we built an integration between our product, QuickTag, and all the flavors of Microsoft Dynamics ERP, starting with Great Plains, GP. We were the first document imaging company to do that. We are actually the first by several years. And as a result, we have several patents that have been awarded to us related to that innovation. Then, once our customers got their paper problems under control, which took a while, obviously, they realized that mounds of paper are really just indicative of a broader process problem. In other words, if there's a ton of paper that's completely asphyxiating your business, chances are it's the process itself that's broken. So we innovated a workflow engine and a browser-based user experience so that anybody could use it anywhere that leads the industry in ease of use and customer satisfaction. We've been automating these business processes ever since, and our reason for existence is to vastly improve the quality of our customers' work life and therefore their life overall. So again, even though the ROI story is super powerful, there's still an emotional hook here that I really want to emphasize, which is when QuickTag goes in and it starts working for you, you can breathe that sigh of relief and you can be elated over the impact that it has on fixing your broken business processes. So let's take a quick look at some of our customers. This is just a quick sample. And Mary and I put this together deliberately to kind of give you a sampling of all of our various customers. We've got big companies in here. We've got small companies in here. And we really tend to serve the industries best that find their business processes completely overwhelmed with paper. So what you're going to see on this slide is a lot of healthcare, financial services, food and drug companies, manufacturing, retail, not-for-profit, service organizations, and last but not least, sports and entertainment. You'll notice some exciting companies like the LA Lakers, the Denver Broncos, Kansas City Chiefs, Indianapolis Colts. So companies that, are dealing with billions and billions of dollars, and really their back office processes are almost as mission critical as what they do with their customer-facing processes. They rely on us. Okay, so let's talk about this whole notion of broken business processes. What causes a business to be brought to its operational knees in the first place? Well, we've found that it's tied to one or more of these 6 reasons. First of all, far too much time spent shuffling paper around. I mean, way too much time. And we'll get to that a little bit later when we start looking at statistics. But let me just tell you this quick story. So one of my favorite customers is the largest potato grower and producer in the country. And they came to us when their accounting and HR staff were about to organize a total mutiny against management because important documents were being stored on pictured giant wooden shrink-wrapped pallets in places like farmhouses, grain silos, seed warehouses, and places like that. So during audit time, which is stressful enough, as I'm sure many of you, if not all of you know, these normally very well-mannered people had to drive in the North Dakota cold, battle bugs and rats and all sorts of other vermin who were themselves trying to seek warmth and food. And if you've ever gone face-to-face with a hungry, freezing North Dakota rat in, February, yeah, it's not fun. And it sounds scary as hell. Luckily, I've never had to do it, being from Arizona. So you can imagine how none of this was drawn up in the job description. So that notion of spending all of that time driving to and from and battling the elements and battling rats really brought that company to the point where they just said enough is enough. Second one, this one cracks me up, office space. So we have customers, big companies, who rent and or own some of the most expensive commercial real estate on the planet. Cities like New York, San Francisco, London, Sydney, Australia, Toronto. These customers were allocating millions of dollars in usable office space per year to huge, ugly, inanimate file cabinets. And that's just an obnoxious office mate to have. I mean, it's hard enough to get along with your office workers when your office mate is actually a huge file cabinet. The ROI story here was beyond epic, as you might imagine, for these companies because we were able to help them reclaim that office space and put it to far better use. Third one, bottlenecks, process bottlenecks. Anytime a human being gets involved in a business process and has to perform an action before a business process can move on to the next node of the process, you've got a bottleneck. One particular customer of ours, and this is just a crazy story, they're a religious organization, and for obvious reasons, I won't name them out, I won't call them out by name, but they required, before we got there, 12 levels of approval just to buy something and pay the invoice. If they needed new Bibles, 12 levels of approval. If they needed, new toilets in the bathrooms, 12 levels of approval. If they needed new offering vessels in order to, take up collection money, you guessed it, 12 levels of approval. That's just insane. I mean, don't you think pious people are supposed to be able to trust each other? In any case, with some divine intervention, pun intended, we were able to show them the error of their ways, also pun intended. We automated their processes and reduced the need for all of those approval levels down to 2 or 3, depending upon dollar amount and the importance of the actual item or service that was being purchased. So 2 or 3 is so much easier to manage than 12. As you might imagine, they got through that process a lot more quickly, and the fact that it was automated really sped things along. This one's crucial, and I would almost be willing to guarantee that every single one of you on the call with me here today, and Mary as well, have this issue in one way, shape, or form. It's really the lack of visibility into a process that you are involved in or even own. So if you manage, let's just say, a multi-billion-dollar supply chain like one of our customers, and you can't tell if you're paying your vendors on time, your life is probably going to feel a lot like covering yourself in a Velcro suit and somersaulting down a bowling lane made of sheep's wool. In other words, it's going to be super uncomfortable and you're not going to get anywhere real fast. If you've never tried doing that before, I totally don't recommend it. I was being hazed when I was pledging my fraternity. I don't want to talk about it. My fraternity was really into stuff like that. Next one. You're growing too fast and you just can't keep up. So great news, you're growing. Bad news, you're growing too fast. If your hiring policies, just because you need people, are, hey, can you fog a mirror? Great, you're hired. You're going to experience some serious heartburn in the not-too-distant future. So what we do is we take a look at your business processes, and we specialize in automating those processes in lieu of what we call death by Peter principle. In other words, hiring the wrong people, hiring fast, firing fast, and all that stuff. We've helped a large lumber company on the East Coast automate their sales order process as they opened up new facilities, and they were growing like crazy too. Where it used to take hours and days to process and fulfill lumber orders, it now takes only minutes. And so some of their customers like Louisville Slugger, Eason, and Major League Baseball themselves are all super pleased about how fast they're able to deliver on those orders. And last but not least, and this is maybe my favorite one, is regulatory compliance. So again, if you run a business which is highly regulated by the government or some other entity, you know how ridiculously complicated and complex your business processes are. It's 5 times the paperwork, it's 10 times the decision-making logic, it takes 15 times as long, and it's 20 times as expensive to get anything done. And it's just the cost of doing business. It just, unfortunately, it is what it is. So we had a customer, it was a large food product company out of Chicago, of course regulated by the Federal Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, and we helped them track and manage every single ingredient in every single product that they made, literally millions of combinations. And when the FDA shows up on your doorstep and wants to know why the kosher for Passover macaroons have caramelized bacon bits in them, well, now at least they know the answer. All right. So let's talk about, now that we kind of went through some of the stories of some of our customers, let's kind of bring it down to the numbers a little bit. Let's talk about costs. So I'm sure all of you have seen various statistics around stuff like this, but according to a source, a report called the Paperless Project, a typical knowledge worker spends anywhere from 30 to 40% of their time looking for information that's either locked in their emails, locked in a file cabinet, or just looking for documentation that they need to do their job. Now, a lot of times when they go look for these documents, they're damaged, they're lost, they're misfiled, they're sitting on someone else's desk. And so the cost to locate, I'll put air quotes around the word lost, the cost to locate a lost document can reach upwards of $120. When you're ready to give up because you just flat out can't find the darn thing anymore and you've got to basically go back to the beginning and replace it, you can almost double that to $220 according to the IOMA. This one's kind of interesting. Let's just talk about invoices for a second. 44% of invoices come in electronically, either as emailed PDFs or, God forbid, fax machines, or maybe EDI. But for whatever reason, we feel compelled to 60% of the time print those things out, even though they're coming in electronically. So we're taking a perfectly good electronic document that's digital and easy to store, and we're printing it. And the reason we're printing it is because that's the way your process is designed. You've got to take the physical artifact, you've got to run it over to somebody's desk, you've got to ask them to code it and sign it, you hope that they give it back to you in time to pay the invoice in time. That's just the way we've designed our process, and it's kind of silly. This one's awesome. This shocked me, actually. When Mary and I saw the statistic, we were pretty blown away. Gartner Group says that 7 to 12% of a company's revenues are actually spent on managing documents in one way, shape, or form. So I'm sure you can do the math. If you think about your company and your total revenues, if you knew that you were spending even 7% per year of total revenues on moving documents around, and you could figure out a way to reduce that down to 1 or 2%, the ROI would be, I'm assuming, astronomical. On average, if you take from the slide before, the 30 to 40% of a knowledge worker's time, if you just look at people in the accounting department, that averages out to about almost $16,000 a year per person. So that's how much time and money you're spending as an accounting specialist looking for, documents. If you have 500 documents a month, and a certain percentage of them, maybe 35 or so, are lost, that's $5,250 a month just in lost documents. So if you had 220 documents a month that were electronically received, the 60% would equate to 130 of them being then printed and photocopied and sneaker netted around. And going back to the lost revenue equation, just to give you guys some order of magnitude, some scale, if you're a $10 million company and you're losing somewhere between 7 and 12% on documents, that's almost $1 million a year. If you're a $50 million company, it's almost 5, and if you're a $100 million company, it's almost 10, and you can obviously scale the numbers from there. So it's pretty dramatic. Right? If you're a $50 million company and you're losing almost $5 million a year on documents, and then a company like ours comes along and has a solution for that costs less than $100,000, again, it's going to pay for itself in a matter of a few months, and it's going to continue to pay for itself year after year after year. So even though finance and accounting and human resources are known as cost centers, there's a tremendous opportunity to turn profit to the organization by automating these very costly manual processes. So what about our product portfolio? How do we address broken business processes and paper burden? So we've got this 3-step process that I mentioned on the very first title slide, 3 steps to transforming your business. So the 3 steps are in the bottom right-hand corner. The first one is what we call document capture. And the second one is then process design, and integration with your organization and your business systems. And then the third step is actually automating the process itself. So we have this wonderful platform, the QuickTag platform, and upon that platform we have a workflow engine, we've got document capture, we've got a full document management engine that sits on top of it, we've got a development layer and a software developer's kit, and with all of those tools, we've actually built what you'll see here in just a little while is something called Quick Apps. And a Quick App is essentially a fully automated business process with sort of out-of-the-box functionality that gives you 80% of the functionality you need to fully automate that process. Why not 100%? Well, because every company is different. Every company's business rules are different. Every company handles things a little bit differently. So we give you that 20% wiggle room to work with us to configure the solution exactly how you want it and need it. And so we have things like payables automation, expense management, forms automation, and then what we call tailored quick apps or tailored applications, which are essentially maybe not packaged solutions, but we have lots of reusable code that we've built over time that we're able to quickly assemble to give you a custom solution in any number of different areas. So really, we are the one system. When you consider the QuickTag platform and everything that it encapsulates, we are the one system for everything document process related. Any department, any document, any process, really across almost any industry. But again, the ones that are either heavily regulated or the most paper burdened tend to have the biggest ROI opportunity for us. So let's kind of dig into the 3 steps, and let me kind of help you understand what they are and why they're important. The first one is capture. And capture is kind of like how we got our start, as I was mentioning earlier. This is just make the paper go away. And we have the most elegant and patented make the paper go away solution that you've ever seen. It's super easy to use. But what I want to talk about real quick before I get into the details is the philosophy of document capture. And this is just good advice that I've accumulated over my years of experience. Whether you end up doing business with us or one of our competitors or not, the philosophy that I would highly recommend you adopt is that capture the document when it very first materializes in your business. So if it's a document that starts out external to you, like an invoice, as soon as that invoice shows up in your organization, don't mess with it. Don't try to photocopy it. Just capture it, right? Either scan it if it's paper or, drag it and drop it or upload it or what have you if it's electronic. Get it in the system so you can get the system working for you instead of you working for that document. That's how you're going to reduce that 7 to 12% of revenue that you're spending managing documents. Once you get it in the system starts chugging on that thing, and life gets a lot better. So I just want to kind of share that philosophy with you. Capture the document as soon as you possibly can. If it's a document that's starting in your organization, again, maybe don't even click the print button at all, right? If it's starting as a digital document, as an electronic document, keep it that way. But just use a system like ours or someone else's, obviously, to manage that document for you so that it's not just floating around in the ether somewhere where it's inaccessible. Okay, well, since this is MS Dynamics world, let's talk about some specifics around what capture means in the context of Dynamics. So what you're looking at here is how we integrate with Dynamics GP, and I'm certain that a lot of you out there are running GP today. We actually embed within 79 GP forms across various modules like POP and SOP and AP and AR, General Ledger, Bank Rec, as you can see, fixed asset management, human resources, payroll, and we can really map to any other modules or any other forms. The way that you're going to see us manifest is in the menu or in the menu ribbon in GP 2015. You're going to see the additional menu. When you click that, you're going to see all of the quick tag functionality made available to you so that you can capture or tag documents directly to those transaction forms, transaction screens. You can view any documents associated with those transaction screens. You can perform sophisticated or easy searches for the documents that you're looking for. Or you can pull up an instance of the work queue, the workflow work queue experience, to look at any documents that have been through a workflow process that are destined for one or more different modules or forms within your ERP system. So what's cool about this is that your hardcore finance and accounting people never have to leave their ERP system in order to get the documents they need or to sort of attach or tag or capture the documents that they need associated with these forms. So that's GP. And then just moving on, we also integrate with SL. We are embedded within 38 SL forms, AP, AR, inventory, purchase orders, project controller, and payroll. With NAV, we're embedded in 82 NAV forms across all of these various modules that you see here. And with AX, we're embedded in 73 forms. So we've got a very deep integration. It took us a long time to get this right. It's not an easy thing to do. Some of our competitors have integrations too, and they've got integrations with maybe 3 screens or 5 screens, but they don't have the type of comprehensive integration that we do across the entire ERP system. And then last but not least, when you get away from ERP a little bit and you start thinking about some of the other areas of your company that maybe aren't supported or governed by ERP, we have our QuickTag Anywhere experience, which is a browser-based user experience that allows you to, again, tag and view and categorize and search for documents directly to and from this browser-based experience. So this works equally well for paper documents when you're scanning. It works great for electronic documents. You can drag documents right into these folders that you see here. You can create new folders very easily and quickly. Sometimes when I do a demo for a customer, they have very specific documents that they want to see in the demo. I'll say, hey, send them over. And within 5 minutes, typically before the demo, I'll spin up a couple of folders or drawers, and then I'll use their documents in the demo so they can see how easy it is to classify and categorize their actual documents. So that's the capture story. It's really just about getting the documents in the system digitally so that you can start working on them, or the system can actually start working on them for you. So step 2 is design and integrate. Now design really means let's sit down and let's understand your process. And is it a process that's working for you, or is it a process that's broken? Because the last thing you want to do is essentially automate a broken process. That's not going to help anybody. So we have, and I think this is really one of the areas that makes us kind of different, is we have a very consultative team of business analysts who will work with you to not only understand your process and then map to it if you want, but also make best practice recommendations on how you can improve your processes. So we work with you, and we always like to say our projects happen with you, not to you. So we're going to work side by side with you, we're going to collaborate, and we're going to design a process that makes complete sense. You can start from scratch and it's the process that you wish you'd always had before it went awry. And then integrate is just talking about how the system, of course, will integrate within your other business systems. Certainly your ERP system is an example of that, but also how is it going to integrate within your culture? And this is like one of the things that I see so much is people have the best of intentions. They want to automate their processes. They want to start, operating their business in the 21st century, and then the system is put in front of them, and they freak out because it's change. So if we are, first and foremost, certainly a software company that vastly improves the quality of our customers' work life, but we also help you get over the culture aspect. So we're change agents too. And so that's, I think, really an important thing to note. And kind of helping that process along is, and I mentioned it earlier, is the notion of quick apps. So again, just a quick definition. A quick app is essentially an application, a package application that automates a specific business process, like payables, like expense management, like employee onboarding, like sales order processing for that lumber company that I mentioned earlier. And a quick app, again, sits on top of the QuickTag platform, and it contains a variety of elements like specific ERP integration and business process routing based on your business rules and threshold monitoring. So for example, if it's expense management and somebody submits a dinner receipt for more than $100, right, it'll notify, it'll automatically decline it, it'll escalate it to that person's manager, those kinds of things. Alerts. Alerts, obviously, once again, very similar to threshold monitoring, except it's more communicative. So this vendor submitted an invoice over $20,000. This person, stayed at a hotel that was more than $400 a night, things like that. Actions. This is the software allowing the user to not only view the document, but actually take action on it, whether that action is approve it and send it on to the next person, reject it and give a reason why, delegate it to somebody else, edit it or edit a specific part of it, just review it and then click a button that says you looked at it. These are all the different types of actions that a quick app would entail. Document associations. This one's huge, and it kind of goes hand in hand with case management also. QuickTag is not just a document repository, but underlying that document repository is a very powerful relational database. And so we capture all of this metadata about the documents in your processes, and then we can create relationships across that metadata. So a simple example, once again, going back to payables is, yeah, sure, we're going to collect all your invoices and we're going to stick that in a folder somewhere. But, of course, we know what vendor those invoices are from. So, therefore, we can search our database and we can pull up other related documents to that vendor, like any contracts that you might have with that vendor or any credit documents that you might have with that vendor. So when you're pulling that information up in what we call a case, we would maybe build you a vendor case. You would not only see all of the invoices organized either by date, by accounting period, by dollar amount, but you could also see, again, the contracts, the credit documents, and any other correspondence that went back and forth with that vendor. So it takes disparate documents that might otherwise be stored in different parts of your system, pulls them all together in a unified view. And then last but not least, reports. And reports are just going to show you things like, what's my cash flow looking like from a payable standpoint? How much accrued expense do I have that's still sitting in a workflow process that hasn't yet been approved? Show me all of my invoices that were approved that were over $10,000 last year, stuff like that. So all of that goes into what we call a quick app, and our quick apps are when we actually think about automating a specific process for you. The quick app is what allows for super fast implementation, very low total cost of ownership, and really as you go from quick app number 1 to quick app number 2 to quick app number 3, your return on investment story gets better and better and better because the QuickTag platform is already in place. You only have to buy that once. And a lot of your user licenses are already in place. So as you add new quick apps, it's a really powerful way for you to achieve solid ROI. Now, that's our story. There are other companies out there that have solutions similar to quick apps. They don't call them that, obviously. But the question really is, how many do they have, and how far-reaching do they go across the organization? Again, what I would enforce with you is work with the company, either like us or similar, that has a specific package solution for the process that you want to address, or at least has done it before, so that they can, bring all of this different functionality to bear without having to, kind of build it from scratch. And that brings me to the third step, which is automation. So what I'm going to do is walk you through a specific process that's probably near and dear to many of you, and I'm just going to help you understand the power of automating that process. So what we're going to do is take a look at accounts payable, and I'm going to start with all of the customers that have come to us over the years and said, my AP process is broken, I'm frustrated, I'm stressed, I have no visibility and no control, help me. This, by and large, is what their process looked like. So they buy something, they'd receive the invoice, and then one way, shape, or form, they'd deliver that invoice to accounts payable, who would then, of course, code that into the ERP system. They would then go to the copy machine. Accounts payable would make all sorts of photocopies. They'd store the original in a file cabinet. Then they'd get on their sneakers. They'd walk across the building or they'd walk across campus. They'd hand deliver the copy of that invoice to an approver. The approver needs to code it, of course, with the appropriate GL code, and they either approve it, or if it's not approvable, then they reject it. If it's rejected, it goes all the way back to accounts payable to solve the problem. And of course, if it's approved, then somebody's got to cut a check, then take a copy of that check and file it with the invoice, with a copy of the invoice that has all the coding and approval information on it. Your controller or CFO has to sign the check, mail the check, and everything gets stored manually in a file cabinet once again. So that whole process is a 35-day cycle if everything goes perfectly. What I want to call your attention to in this very manual process is everywhere you see an orange hand is a manual human intervention part of the process. This is a bottleneck. This is a part of the process where things can break down. This is a part of the process where things can slow down. This is the part of the process that's costing you money. So the goal of automation, first of all, is to take all of these nodes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 12, 13 nodes, reduce the number of steps, reduce the number of nodes, and get rid of as many of these orange hands as you possibly can. So if we started to automate AP, let's talk about like a level 1 automation scenario where you're just dipping your toe in the water and you're saying, John, I know my organization is ripe for automation, but I'm scared. And if I'm scared, then everybody else in my organization is going to be 3 times as scared. So how can we do this in a way that's going to be minimally invasive, and then we can grow from there? So what I would first recommend is take all of your invoices that come in the organization and, again, capture them first. Remember my key capture philosophy that I shared with you earlier. Capture the document first. Whether it's paper, you scan it. If it's electronic, you drag it and drop it. You email it in, whatever. Just get it in the system. Okay? Once it's in the system, QuickTag will run its understanding of your business rules against that document and then route it automatically to your approvers for coding and approval. So you don't have to then make photocopies. You don't have to put your sneakers on and go running around the building. You don't have to keep a separate Excel spreadsheet with a log of all the invoices that have ever come in your organization and who's supposedly got it and have they approved it yet or not. All those days are gone. The system will track all of that for you. Okay, so then your users, your approvers, can approve or reject, and they can do it from a mobile device. So they don't even have to be sitting at their desk tethered to their computer. They can be managers who travel all the time, and they're looking at their smartphone sitting in an airport going, I got some extra time. Let me go ahead and approve or reject my invoices. At that point, QuickTag will automatically create an invoice voucher in your ERP system for you based on the information that was extracted from the invoice. And then you can cut the check and file it. When you get to the last step, because all of the documentation was captured electronically at the front end of the process, there's nothing to file. There's nothing to walk to the file cabinet for. We actually have tons of customers, including that potato grower I mentioned way back at the beginning, who their document retention policy is as soon as it goes into QuickTag, we keep the documents for 2 weeks, and then we shred and we recycle. And they shred and recycle tons of paper per year because they've got like over 170 GP companies, and they're huge. So by doing just this first level of automation, you notice we've removed, 3 or 4 nodes from the process. We've removed some orange hands from what's otherwise a very manual part of the process. And you can actually reduce, what we've seen with our customers, you can reduce the cycle time about 700%. take it down from 35 days to as fast as 5 days. Now you're talking about not only a time and money ROI, you're talking about ROI on saved late fees. You're taking advantage of early pay discounts if you want to. Your supply chain's way happier with you. Your D&B rating is going up. Your boss is happy. Everything's starting to look good. Okay, now let's maximize. Let's go from level 1 to like as automated as you can get, just so you can see what this would look like. So instead of receiving the invoice, instead of having your vendors continue to send invoices in the way that they've always done, let's set up a specific email inbox that goes directly into QuickTag. So from now on, your vendors send invoices to, invoices@yourcompany.com, and they go straight into QuickTag. QuickTag will actually send that to our OCR engine. We have a cloud-based OCR engine called ICE, which stands for Intelligent Cloud Extraction. Or, should you choose, you can actually run ICE on-premise if you'd prefer. Either way, the data will be extracted from that invoice automatically so that no one has to manually code the invoice at all. We're going to extract the vendor information, the date, the dollar amounts, any line items that might be there, and we're going to do lookups into GP. We're going to extract vendor IDs and vendor and account codes and all that good invoice stuff. And based on that information, we now know who the vendor is. We know which ERP company it's destined for. We know the dollar amount. We can apply your business rules and then route that invoice around for review and approval. Again, approval or rejection and coding, all of that can happen, all that will happen digitally and from a mobile device. And then, of course, QuickTag once again creates the approved invoice in your ERP system and attaches a copy or a link, really, to that invoice image and any other artifacts that might be appropriate to that ERP transaction. This is where we kind of stop the process a little bit, or we pause the process. I would say to get rid of these 4 nodes and these 4 orange hands, work with your ERP partner, your partner of record, to help you with EFT instead of doing manual checks. And then that can feed the payment information back to QuickTag, where all of your documents can then be stored securely and available either from your ERP system or from the QuickTag, what we call our universal client, our browser client. Look, no more orange hands, and we're down to 7 nodes. So as a result, we took something that took 35 days at the onset, and we've reduced it down to half a day, if you want to move that fast. And so that's really what we're all about. And if you think about any broken processes in your organization, that's the level of automation that really gets you from 0 to 100. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Mary. And
thanks, John.
Yeah, you bet.
And just while that's coming up, I just want to highlight the fact that in those examples that you just gave, John, while obviously focusing on accounts payable, the primary area that people come to us for, the primary reason that people first feel that paper burden that you described so eloquently earlier, there are a lot of other areas in the business that people also realize, hey, once I have this thing in place, there's other things that they can do with it. So I'll share a couple of other use cases and then some customer case studies that we have experienced that really make the whole business be able to rely on one system. And for those of you on the phone, this is where, if we were doing this face-to-face, most of the time people kind of have that aha moment of, wait a minute, I don't have to use a point product in this department for this process and a point process or point solution for this problem in that department. It truly can all be done in one system. And so the next most popular area of the business that people come to us for is expense management, which is what we're looking at on the screen now. And, the QuickTag work queue that you described earlier that people could view from within GP or SL is displayed in our online view here, but using an example of a receipt. Now, John, you and I travel on a fairly regular basis. I'm sure many on the phone do or work with those who do. And, the great thing about the expense management application or the Quick app for expense management is that you can simply, we do this all the time. We practice what we preach here at QuickTag. And, you can simply snap a picture of the receipt on your mobile device, email it in, don't give it another thought, discard the receipt, throw it away, move on. And then when we get into our work queue, which is what we're looking at here, right in the middle of the screen, all of the receipts that we've emailed in can then quickly be tagged and coded in this left-hand panel here. We put whether it's reimbursable or not. We put whether it gets billed to the client. And just like with accounts payable, and you described that process of automation, the same business rules can apply, or different if they're different for this business process. If certain expenses need to go to different managers, if they need to go to the department or budget owner for that particular program or travel expense, they can be routed accordingly. Or if the person just has to select on their own who it should go to, that's an option as well. So an area that's closely related to accounts payable, and often a reason that people come to us for is expense management. And then related to that is forms automation. And this one I was just actually with a group of people last week, and when they saw the option to use the same system that they use for their accounts payable automation for HR and onboarding and employee records management, they were reminded of the dozens of file cabinets that sit outside of HR's office. You know, one for training, one for compliance, one for hiring, one for disciplinary action, one for, you know, taxes and benefits and all this kind of stuff. So in order to, you know, pull somebody's record together, pull one person's file together, they have to go to all of those different file cabinets and literally dig into file, you know, folders and you know, where's John's form in here and where's John's form in here. It can be quite burdensome. And if, as you described earlier, John, that document happens to be lost or in the wrong folder, well, we know the time and cost situation that can happen there. And what we see here is the ability to take forms from within Word, Excel, Adobe, Outlook, the systems that they use every day. This example is a vacation request form, but you could apply the logic to any one of those types of forms that I just mentioned, and simply open it within its native application. In this example, I'm opening the vacation request form in Word because that happens to be the template that we use. We didn't have to get a template builder. We didn't have to hire a developer. We simply call it a template. We open it up. And as you see, the little orange boxes are highlighting open in QuickDocs, save to QuickTag, route for approval. So John, if I was submitting this vacation request form, it would automatically come to you, and then you would get an email saying, Mary has a vacation request form. All of this done, again, within the same system as what we just described for accounts payable automation. So the ability to automate expenses, the ability to automate HR forms, or any other type of internal document is hugely powerful. And what makes it really easy for people is then they can see everything in one view. So what we're looking at, John, in the Quick App story that you told earlier, you described case management and that document association. Well, that's what we're looking at here. And for HR or payroll or accounting, anybody else on the finance team, a manager even, that needs to drill into any employee file, now instead of each one of those individual file cabinets, we have everything located. These are the examples of employees, actually the ones in our company, of course, that you can then click on any one of them and see their compliance documentation, their personnel documentation, leave of absence, that time off request that I was showing a moment ago would show up in here. And you can click and see the document displayed here on the right-hand panel, the case list, whatever is associated with that particular person, starting with their application for employment, and then all of their historical records that are accumulated over time. And you can quickly see if this were an actual interface, we would have been able to click on any one of those names and see any related documentation for each one of those people in the company. So you can see how bringing all of those documents together in a single view, what we call a case, can be a very powerful, very time-saving, and, you know, all of that stress that you talked about and the piles of paper at the beginning of the conversation, all of that goes away with a few clicks. Now, to bring that to life for a particular customer called Diligent Delivery Systems that we've worked with for a number of years now, they had exactly that problem. Now, it's important to note that Diligent Delivery Systems first came to us with the accounts payable problem. The one that we talked about is the example. They use GP, and they said, we've got to make this better. We've got distributed locations. We have managers all over the field, out in the field all over the country. You know, we've got to make this better. So they automated their accounts payable, and they said, okay, this is good. Now they said, we've also got 3,000 independent contractors. They're a trucking company. They deploy truckers to deliver products and supplies from point A to point B on behalf of their customers. So they subcontract to 3,000 different independent contractors across the country to do that. And they realized, gosh, this is a very paper-intensive, very manual, very broken process, just like accounts payable, maybe even more so, because they had very little control over the truckers in the field. The truckers don't travel with computers and laptops and faxes and scanners and, all of that kind of stuff. But you know what? They did have a mobile device. So what the situation was is across all of these locations, they needed to manage the documentation for these independent contractors. And that could be driver's license, insurance verification, compliance records, training, everything that is necessary to maintain a relationship as being a licensed and valid independent contractor for diligent delivery. Each of these people, each of these independent contractors required 30 plus documents each. So what was happening is the general managers in the field, instead of working on their customer relationships, were chasing truckers around the country saying, hey, you need to get me that documentation, and when are you going to be able to send that in? And literally the story would go something like, when I get to the next truck stop, I'll dig it out of my glove compartment and I'll see if I can find it. And, maybe they have a fax machine that I can borrow to send it. I mean, you can imagine the stress and the time delays of getting people approved. But what did getting people approved mean? It meant that they were able to deliver products from point A to point B on behalf of their customers. So the visibility at corporate and home office and even of the general managers in the field was little to none. Add to that they had 26, count them, 26 four-door file cabinets, that all of that loss and misfiling examples that we shared earlier certainly came into play. So once they applied their QuickTag application to this area of their business, in addition to accounts payable, the GMs were actually able to do their job. They gained 30% of time per week. They no longer felt like they were administrative assistants and chasing around documentation. And all of those independent contractors, just like that case management view I showed you a minute ago, were now labeled on the left-hand side, the list of 3,000 of them. Quick search, pull up the documentation. Yep, there's the driver's license, there's the insurance, there's the CDL, whatever documentation needed to be provided was quickly able to be located. And it had the corporate visibility so that if an auditor or somebody came in and said, we need to prove that the drivers in this particular region are all up to date, it was easy for them to do, and it didn't create a lot of stress and a lot of phone calls. So as a result of having both of those applications in place, they experienced ROI in about 6 months. Now, the beauty of that story actually is that the CFO of Diligent Delivery went on to another company. He's what's known as a turnaround CFO. He went on to another company, and within just a couple of months of being there, he quickly adopted QuickTag in that environment too. Minor aside for you. So once you get used to the automation, it's hard to let go, which we think is a good thing, and hopefully they're getting their life back everywhere they go. Now, another case study I'd like to share with you is the Denver Broncos. Maybe you've heard of them. And QuickTag, we like to, relay the fact that we build champions on and off the field. So as you can imagine, the accounting and finance team for the Denver Broncos is not on the field. And, much like many of you are not on the field, but you are very much an active role in building the company's success. So in the Bronco scenario, they use GP 2013. They manage 8 distinct GP companies, and that manual process with all the little hands that John showed just a few moments ago is exactly what they went through in processing invoices within their organization. And they've started with QuickTag in October of 2014, and the first thing they did was automate the invoice approval process, and then they went on to the payment approval process, and we're currently working on mobile, and I didn't have time to update the slide to add it, but we're also working on expense management with them as well. So again, once you sort of find one area of the business that you've got running smoothly in the way that John described as the way you wish it always was, then it's easy to find other areas that can use that same type of improvement. So the Broncos were challenged by invoices arriving in the mail, the manual sorting and routing and running around the office. Prepayment approval was required in many cases for larger invoices. Lots of bottlenecks were present. It was taking, weeks for invoices to get approved and paid. Tracking down payments for audits was time-consuming. If you remember at the beginning, John shared an example of compliance. Well, the Broncos recently went through their audit cycle, and in addition to being able to pull up any check and any invoice that the auditor required, they came in with a list of 30 to 50 invoices, and they said, we want to see this check and this documentation and this associated document. And after going through just a few of those that were on their list, sitting next to the accounts payable person, or even you can give them a temporary license if you like, they were able to quickly find those invoices, and after going through 5 or 6, they realized, yep, we've got this covered. Now, interestingly, the Broncos were also, as part of that audit, they were faced with having to comply with HIPAA regulations, and they were able to pass that part of their audit with QuickTag and with flying colors, actually, as a result, because they were able to prove all of their employment documentation, anything that was sensitive. They had the right security and permissions in place, and they were quickly able to locate all of that documentation as well. So now a process that was very painful and time-consuming, that had zero visibility, has visibility within all of the appropriate managers and the CFO, and the things that require CFO approval. Those are only the things that they're getting, via email to approve. And overall, their accounting staff productivity increased. Everything that they have from an invoice standpoint is now centrally located in GP and very easily accessible with QuickTag, and the finance managers have visibility throughout the payment process, as well as they'll soon have access throughout the expense management process as well. And they've already experienced ROI in less than 9 months. So we hope that what you've seen here today teaches you how you can truly transform your business with 3 simple steps: capture, design and integrate, and then automate. And as John described, the system itself delivers about 80% of the features of an enterprise, what you would think of as enterprise level, with the lots of zeros and commas in the ECM system world, at 20% of the price and about 10% of the deployment time. Now, why is time so important? We talked about all those costs related to the time, probably that don't have a line item in your budget today. But when you realize that you're faced with one of those challenges, or one or more of those challenges, you don't want to wait for a solution. You want to get something in place relatively quickly, so that you can not only start getting ROI, but so that you can instantly get your team being productive again and being efficient and get their work life back. Now, I'm also going to share a little secret with you, that this is a process improvement design tool that we are about to release in the next couple of months, and we're calling it Katana. So what we have here is the ability to design automation into any business process. So a lot of our customers say, great that we've got this in place. What happens if we need to make a change? What happens if we need to extend this to another area of our business? What we're going to do is put the power of workflow design in the palm of your hands. If you can use Visio, you can use Katana, and it will truly change the way that you think about process automation, process design, everything from as simple as the accounts payable review in the example on the left, to as complex as this 3-level review of, this is actually a contract legal review process that includes multiple internal and external steps of review and edit. You can imagine what contracts go through. So there's more than one way to design this. Obviously, it can be very custom to your business, but soon you will have the ability to design and manage your own process. The really cool thing is that, as John described earlier, the QuickTag workflow engine, once you click save in this environment, all of those workflow rules and business rules go right into the QuickTag engine, and you can immediately apply them to that process that's already running. Given a day or so of testing, make sure that it does what you want, and then you'll be able to see the results in production in very short order. Now, at this time, we'd like to see if we have any questions in from the audience. I'm just going to take a quick look back over here. John, one question that came in is that, people want to know, do they have to, if they use QuickTag, do they have to get their own scanners or get new scanners from what they're currently using?
Yeah, no, not at all. I wouldn't think so anyway. We work with just about any modern scanner, copy machine, multifunction device that's been built in the last 15 years, maybe even 20. So you don't need special equipment. You don't have to buy new hardware. You can almost assuredly go with what you got.
Excellent. Okay, thanks. John, another question that has come in is, does QuickTag integrate with Dynamics CRM?
We don't out of the box. So all of the GPSL, NavAX, those are out of the box. But I mentioned, as it relates to those, that we have the ability to map to those, and that is through a combination of our data mapping tool and also our integration toolkit. We've had this question come up before, and you can certainly work with us and or work with your Dynamics partner to use our integration toolkit to integrate us into CRM. That would be something that we'd want to talk more about offline so you can understand a little bit more about what's involved in that. But I guess the short answer is no, not out of the box.
Got it. Thanks, John. And the next question is, we've talked a lot about time and the length of time it takes to implement, and most of all, the quick ROI. But what does that mean for customers? So the question is, how long does it really take to implement QuickTag?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I really want to answer that question in a couple of in a couple of different parts. Some of our customers who are really, really reticent to take the plunge into automation will just start with capture. So let's just say they're running GP, and they say, all I want to do is be able to capture documents and have those associated with forms in GP. A project like that is a 2.5, 3-day project. It's very, very fast. And really the most time-consuming part of it is, the initial spin-up of the QuickTag server, which is something we can do remotely, and then training your end users how to use the product efficiently. So let's just say 3 days for that, 3.5 days, something along those lines. Now let's talk about automating one process. Let's talk about, payables, for example. By and large, that is a, less than 30-day project, but, and this is a big qualifier, it really all depends upon how fast your organization can move, because we are going to need help from you to understand your business process, to understand where different things are. We're going to need access to different people. So it's a lot more involved than just putting a capture solution in place. And what we found is that our customers have day jobs. I know that's a shock, and so they can't always devote the time to our project that we wish they could. So something that could be done in 17 days, if we had, unfettered access to you, oftentimes takes a couple of months. But we can go, I can guarantee you we can go faster than you can. And I don't mean that to come across in a, arrogant way. It's just that's been my experience is we're always, raring to go, and our customers are kind of saying, hey, we need a little bit more time. So I would say on average, 3.5 days for capture, and between, 3 weeks and 3 months on the workflow side.
Got it. John, we have time for one more quick question here, and that is, how would we manage security? The person joined a little late and was hoping that we could address that really quick.
Yeah, and security is very near and dear to our heart. So the QuickTag document repository is it's a very secure. Our customers pass audits. Our healthcare customers pass HIPAA, which is probably the biggest testament to how secure our solution is. But the bottom line is that there is security all the way down to the document level in QuickTag. So you can establish access control rights at the folder level, at the site level, and all the way down to individual documents. So we've almost never had somebody call up and say we've had a security breach, where they call up our support department and say help. That's just, I don't want to jinx it, but that just doesn't come up. So we can definitely talk more about that offline if you want to dig into the details, but security is always at the top of our list of importance when we talk about building out a solution for our customers.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Thanks, everybody, for attending. We appreciate your time, and we hope that you will follow up with us if you have any additional questions, and we look forward to working with you. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. That concludes today's event.